What's up, nerds? It's your boy on a hazy afternoon, and we're talking about McGuffins. Because I said we were going to talk about it yesterday. So I'm recording this on video this time instead of doing live because I kept getting cut off yesterday. So I don't know how much of what you heard or didn't hear from what I talked about yesterday. I may have wasted 30 minutes and you heard nothing. I don't know. So we're talking about the McGuffin. This is spiraling off of yesterday's talk about the haunted house and the motivation. And what the motivation of many a story is the McGuffin. So what is a McGuffin? Well, the meta is that the McGuffin, despite what some people think, is not an object. It's the idea of the object. It's the, as Bogart says, the stuff that dreams are made of. And of course, the most famous McGuffin is the Maltese Falcon, because the running theme of the Maltese Falcon is it's the idea of the Maltese Falcon that motivates all the characters, not the actual Maltese Falcon. In fact, if you've ever seen the Maltese Falcon, you know at the end of the Maltese Falcon they decide to continue exploring because they had such a good time and they weren't sure if they'd actually found the real Maltese Falcon. Now there's a lot of actual real mumbo jumbo mysteries associated with the actual Maltese Falcon prop, but be that as it may. Now some people would argue, no, the ring is a MacGuffin, isn't it? Because it is the impetus of the entire story, and therefore it predates the Maltese Falcon, doesn't it? Most of us associate the MacGuffin with the Maltese Falcon. There's some argument to say that the ring is a MacGuffin and the ring isn't a MacGuffin. The physical, tangible object of the motivation is as important. But again, the most important aspect of the MacGuffin is the idea of the MacGuffin. And that idea is what motivates the characters in the story to continue through the story for the eventual goal at the end of the story. Though the heroic journey they take and how it transforms them is often more important than the actual MacGuffin. If we're going to use Tolkien, we could say Bilbo and the Dwarf's treasure. The Dwarf treasure is the MacGuffin for Bilbo's story. It's what motivates Bilbo to explore. It's what motivates Bilbo to change. And even though at the end, when Bilbo receives the treasure, it's not the treasure that has changed Bilbo. It's the experience, the idea of the treasure, and then going home and then realizing he's changed and he's not happy being home anymore is more important than the actual object. What does this have to do with gaming? Well, I had to set the scene there for those of you who haven't studied filmmaking or devoted hours to researching this concept or whatever. And what does this have to do with a game? Well, the MacGuffin is the primary impetus of our game, especially when dealing with spooky stories, but just any stories. Every D&D story we tell is going someplace, doing something. Roll dice, stuff happens, right? What motivates the characters? Is it the actual tangible reward or the idea of the reward and the adventure associated with the idea? Because the adventure is what's important when telling the story of a MacGuffin. The MacGuffin is just the object or the idea of the object that you use to get them to continue. Now, the great thing about the MacGuffin being an intangible concept as well as a physical thing is you can move the MacGuffin, right? We talk about this all the time when we talk about what if the players don't do what I want them to do or go where I want them to go. Hopefully we'll see some spookies while we're walking. So far we've been a little less than successful. All right. And every time we have the conversation, I talk about the fact that you have the ability to move things around. Nothing in the adventure is static until they get there, right? It doesn't exist until they walk into that scene. So you can move the scene, you can rescreen the scene, you can change names, you can do whatever you need to do to facilitate their direction while still tell some resemblance of the story that you want to tell, which is why the idea of the McGuffin is as important, if not more important, than the actual McGuffin, because the McGuffin is a nonsense word, right? And the whole idea is that it's a nonsense thing. It's not that important. At the end of the day, the Maltese Falcon wasn't as important as the story of the Maltese Falcon. The Maltese Falcon was just the thing that got them to tell the story. You can move the McGuffin around as long as you're continuing to motivate them with the story of the McGuffin. The story of the haunted house. Why the player characters are in the haunted house, why the player characters are going after the werewolf, why the player characters are dealing with the vampire, the zombie infestation, is always based around the McGuffin. The McGuffin can be a person, the McGuffin can be a place, the McGuffin can be a thing, the McGuffin can be an idea. The idea that if I do this, this, and this, I will get this reward. The actual reward is never as exciting as the idea of getting the reward. The story that they tell in their minds will always be better than the story the game tells, which is why you can move stuff around. Until they actually have the McGuffin in their hands, the McGuffin is Schrodinger's cat. It both is and isn't everywhere you need it to be to tell the story. So if we're doing spooky house, right, because we're talking about Halloween, and we're using the McGuffin as another tool to tell a spooky story, and we are motivating the player characters to move through our spooky story because of the McGuffin. The McGuffin, you know, we could go back to the 3 types of ghosts that we talk about. You know, the McGuffin could be the thing the characters need to do to end the haunting. The McGuffin could be the thing the characters need to find or do to free the ghosts, to facilitate the end of the story, to facilitate the adventure that the house wants to tell. We talked about how the house has its own motivation yesterday, right? Your motivation as the character in the story, in the pursuit of the McGuffin, is to facilitate the story around the McGuffin. The McGuffin is as much as a character in the story as you are. And the McGuffin's job is to always just be out of hand's reach, to always continue to tempt you. And if the players don't go the direction the script in your head goes, or the adventure you're reading goes, the fluid nature of the McGuffin allows you to move it around. Change a few names, change a few clues. If they're supposed to find the candlestick in the library, but they never go to the library, move the candlestick. They don't know, right? Who killed Mr. Green? I don't know. Mr. Green isn't, the mystery isn't solved until I say it's solved, right? Oop, there's some spookies. I think this spider will jump on us. Are you gonna jump on a spider? Yep, there it goes. Yep, it's trying. It's trying. It's trying. Nope, nothing happened. Got some more spookies. Got a spooky there. Cool. Oh, I see some more spookies ahead of us. Oh, clever. Hanging the pumpkins in the trees. Very clever. Okay. Where was I? I'm sorry I got distracted by spookies. You don't care what I'm talking about. You just wanted to see spookies, right? Screw you, OGJM. Just show us more spooky stuff. I like that. Oh, very clever. I like that. I like that. I like these witches. This is a good one. Okay. Temporary spooky side quest. We're back to our main quest, talking about your best tool as a DM, telling any story, especially spooky stories, is the McGuffin, right? We're talking about the McGuffin. We're talking about this stuff that dreams are made of, like Bogart says. So, in terms of spookiness, your McGuffin is either going to be what ends the story or what begins the story, right? Usually what's in the stories. In order to end the spookiness, the player characters have to achieve a McGuffin. The McGuffin could be a goal, the McGuffin could be a magic item, the McGuffin could be an escort quest. The McGuffin could just be the idea of the possible rewards that wait at the end should they survive the spookiness for 24 hours, right? Your ghosts, your bad guys, your monsters are the NPCs that the McGuffin is controlling in the story. The ghosts are there to either hinder the player characters from achieving the McGuffin goal or help the player characters achieve the McGuffin goal. There's the tools that allow you to redirect the characters if they're not doing what you want them to do, or to help facilitate if you discover that the story they're telling is way more interesting than the story you had planned, right? And we've talked about that too, and that's probably the topic of another vlog, but that's always something to consider, that the players might actually tell a better story and you need to be able to run with it. And the fluid nature of the scenario, of the McGuffin, gives you that freedom, that permission, that if things go off the rails and go in a new direction, to either A, redirect it, because you have infinite bad guys, or run with it. Because maybe they end up creating a much more interesting story. You still can have your 3 fixed encounters. They haven't run into them yet. If they haven't happened yet, you can Schrodinger's can't them. They don't exist until they walk into those encounters, right? And then you can pepper those encounters with the hints of the McGuffin. And if they haven't found the McGuffin yet, if they haven't facilitated the McGuffin's goals, move it. They don't find the Maltese Falcon in the vault because they never went to the vault. They ended up going someplace else. What do you know? There's either something where they went to get them to go back to the direction they're supposed to go, or the Maltese Falcon's in that room after all. Oh, here we go, some more spookies. Momentary spooky laughs. Now there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of books, videos out there that talk about screenwriting, talk about the McGuffin. A lot of them are available to you for free online. A lot of the information I got is just peppered from my years working in the industry, classes I took, people I talked to. So my advice is not the end-all be-all. But if we cycle back to the very beginning of the original McGuffin, the Maltese Falcon, or Bilbo and the Treasure, the McGuffin is not a thing. It's the idea of the thing. And that idea is what you want to use to keep the characters moving through the adventure till they achieve the goal of retrieving the McGuffin. Whether the McGuffin be a physical, tangible thing, like the Maltese Falcon, or more of a existential thing, like Bilbo's 14th share of the treasure, or an escort quest, or hey, you now get to marry the princess, or whatever. It's never about the thing, it's about the journey. It's never about the object. It is, again, as Bogart says, the stuff that dreams are made of. Those dreams being more important to the story than the actual tangible object the story is about. Hopefully that has helped. I guess next we have to talk about what about the player characters do if they go off the rails. We've talked about that before. It is the 9th day of October, about 1 o'clock. I'm the OGGM. If you appreciate these ramblings, let me know. If you never want to hear me talk about this topic ever again, let me know. And I'll see you all soon.